Welcome to the ABW Project. My name is January Donovan, founder of The Art of Being a Woman. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me and walk with me and begin this journey called The Art of Being a Woman. In the next 3 videos, I am going to unpack the story of a woman in this time in history. You have a story, I have a story, and history is a compilation of stories. And our story matters. Let's begin. Okay. When you think about a story, I want you to place yourself in this story. Think about a book, okay? And the title of the book is The Story of a Woman, okay? Every story has a beginning and an end. The pages in between is the journey, right? This is the journey. The journey is our story. Now, why is it so important for us to understand our story? We need to know our story in order to own our story. And if we don't own our story, somebody is going to write it for us. Let's begin. What are the elements of a story? Let's look at the setting. Okay. What is our current culture? What is our current culture? What does it say about our story? What is our environment? And what's our home? Now, this is going to look different for every woman, but we are going to walk through the themes of a woman's life, our setting, okay? Another element of a story is the conflicts, okay? What are the contradictions of being a woman today? What are the expectations? And what are the challenges? We're going to unpack this as we move along in this project. Right now, I'm giving you a framework so that we can better understand as I unpack this story. Your story, my story, and our story. Okay? Another element of a story is the plot. Right? It's the sequence of events in our life. How are we prepared for the stages in our life? How are we prepared as we develop? Is that right? Okay. And based on our setting, the conflicts and the plot, we can then have a better assessment on the theme of our life, right? What are the themes in our life? What are the themes that we're running into as a woman in today's culture in this time in history? And why is that so important for us to understand? Because our story matters. And the better we understand the setting, the conflict, and the stages in our life, the better we can understand this part of our life. Let me start with perspective. Okay, I want you to think yourself as a tiny little lady. Okay? If you've encountered a little baby, whether in the hospital, a newborn baby, or think yourself as a newborn baby, you look at the child and your natural reaction is what? Awe, beauty, worth. You don't look at that child and say, if you stop crying, then maybe I'll feed you. If you're kind to me, then maybe I'll be kind to you. She doesn't have to prove or earn her worth. We don't place conditions in that tiny little infant when she comes into this world. Now, 2 things happen as this little tiny person grows, okay? This story from the beginning. 2 things happen. Either we get contributed to, contribution, or robbery. Let me give you an example. We either criticize the little tiny person, the little lady, or we compliment them. We either welcome their failure as opportunities, or we expect them to be perfect. Why is this so important for us to understand as we study and observe our story. Because we have a worth crisis in our culture. We have a worth crisis in our culture. Today, women are made to feel bad. We are supposed to hustle for worthiness. We have to earn respect. We have to earn love. We have to earn attention. We have a worth crisis. We are going to unpack this as I unpack this story of a woman in the next 3 videos. Here, this is a story of us women in this time in history. Okay, let's begin. What's our setting? Okay, so our culture right now is very fast. Okay, just imagine about 70 years ago when we get a letter in the mail, we'd read it, open it, would take the time, and we'll respond to it. Right now, when we wake up, we have 30 emails waiting for us in the same amount of time. Internet has transformed the way we've communicated and the way we've lived our lives. We're going, right? So what happens where things are going so fast? We're tired. We get exhausted. There's a perpetual exhaustion that's happening. We often just skim the surface and we're forgetting depth. We're forgetting layers of people's story. And we're forgetting the people. We're just trying to get by. One activity after another, one commitment after another. We're forgetting the people. Okay. Number 2, setting in our culture is more is good. We celebrate more. This is what Hollywood shows us. So the more, we don't go to one party, we go to 5 parties afterward. We don't have one activity for our children, we have 5. Why? Because we need to have more shoes, bigger homes. It's this big, huge more world where more is never quite enough. Okay, so what happens when more is not enough? There's a lot of restlessness that's happening, a lot of unsatisfied hearts. We can't get enough and we don't know why. And number 3, which I'm going to talk a lot and unpack in this project, is there's a lot of comparison and bad competition that's happening within women. Okay. Number 3, our world right now is very distracting. Okay. So when you sit I picture myself sitting in the computer and I'm typing, music is going off, there's a I am, and you're texting somebody and you're making a phone call, all at the same time. Okay, I'm studying this right now, and I picked up a book, a children's book that was, I guess, 20 years ago, and the kids' National Geographic that my children get. And I opened the book, and I honestly don't know where to begin. There's about 100 things in one page. Okay, 20 years ago there was 1 or 2 things. There's so many things coming at us. We don't even know where to begin or where to focus. So what happens when we're getting distracted all day long? Okay, there's a lot of chaos. And chaos brings a lot of lack of clarity. And lack of clarity, a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety. We don't know where to begin or how to begin. And not only we don't know where to begin, we're overwhelmed because we're supposed to be returning all the emails in the same amount of time, and there's more that's expected of us in a very distracting world. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Okay? So our world is very cynical. Okay? And I don't need to do a lot of explanation. You can go to the news and you can see the bickering. Okay? Great example is the reality shows that we're watching right now. I think of the Gladiator, and we look at that as, how could people do that? How could people be so barbaric and kill people in the arena where they're cheering people on? Reality shows. We're not killing people physically, but we are emotionally. We're killing their spirit. And we celebrate it, and we're all watching it. And it's okay to make fun of people. Really, if you look at the social media right now and the comments, it's okay to be rude. It's okay to make fun of people. Well, what happens when we live in a world where it's cynical? We have our arms up. We're in protection mode. We can't open. Okay? Well, why should we? We're just so afraid that we're just going to get darts at us. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anger and distress that's happening, especially in our media. Okay? Number 5, we live in a world that's very isolated. Okay? So what do we consider as grand? Independence. We celebrate independence as opposed to interdependence. Okay? So we're born in this little tiny person and we're dependent and we want to be independent, which is good. But we don't see that we're actually part of a we. Interdependent. Stephen Covey does a beautiful job painting the picture of the lack of interdependence in our psychology and our culture today, where we see I as the end as opposed to a we. But the reality is that we don't live in this world alone. We have neighbors. There's people around us. And what we do have consequences. And when we don't realize that what we do have consequences because we think I'm independent, I can do it, there's a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness, a lot of sad hearts. Okay? So this is our setting. Let's move into the conflict. Okay? So here's my conflict triangle. Now bear with me as I give you this explanation. What are the conflicts of being a woman today? I'm going to point to 2 things. Okay? Just 2 things because that's all we can handle right now. I want you to think about the expectations of being a woman. Okay? What is expected of us? I went to Barcelona on a date with my husband 2 weeks ago. And sure enough, I passed by the woman's aisle and here's the book. How to Do It All. Okay? So I'm going to break down all. Okay? So number 1, what is expectation today? That's pretty clear is we're expected to be thin. Thin equals beautiful and beautiful equals what? Acceptable. Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to dip into some neuroscience here. The images that we see all day long, you don't have to go far, are of women that are thin. Okay, so those images go directly into our subconscious mind where 97% of our decision making skills happen. You know, we don't think about chewing, we don't think about driving, it just happens. That's where a lot of our decisions happen. So beautiful is actually getting redefined based on the images that we see. So, you know, we ask you, who's beautiful? Okay, 50 years ago, we would probably say, my grandmother is beautiful. We see the totality of our grandmother. Right now, we see parts. You know, we usually describe her as kind or she's nurturing. But because it's getting redefined, and beauty, when we close our eyes, we think thin, okay? We have changed the definition of beauty. A great example is, I don't know, a couple months ago there was an article, front cover magazine of this beautiful model. She's 60 years old and she's in the front cover of the magazine, and she was highlighted not because of her age, but because she was 60 and flawless and thin and perfect. Okay, so what do we as young women look to? Oh, that's what we see as beautiful. That's what to strive for. 60 and flawless, right? That's the expectations. That's what we measure ourselves against. Okay, so unless I'm that at 35, I'm not good enough. Okay, expectation number 2, I forgot to write it down. Okay, confident. We are expected to be confident. So if I ask you what confidence means, I'm going to get about 300 different answers. Okay, and if you Google self-confidence, there's no talk of competence, practice, or self-knowledge. Now this is really important because we talk a lot about self-confidence, but no talk and very little about competence. Let me paint this picture for you. So if I write an article that says How to own your kitchen. Okay, I'm going to get 100 emails back that says you're putting women back 100 years back. Okay, how to own your kitchen, how to be competent in the kitchen where I know how to make a food, I know where it's coming from, I know how to study the food, how it's being made, and the process of making food. Yet, we have a health crisis of obesity, of eating disorder, but let's not talk about competence and ownership of our kitchen. That's not connected to ownership of our health. Okay? We're taught not to make this connection. Okay? Because ownership in our kitchen has everything to do with ownership in our health. Confidence in our kitchen is going to give us confidence in how to be healthy. We're not going to let the big bad wolf and industry inject all this junk in our system because we know how to study what's in our food. Right now, we're doing a lot of backpedaling in the health industry. Why? Because we realize, oh, look at all this junk that they're pumping in our body. Well, if we understood and we were confident enough, we can say, no, this is not right. That's actually not food. That's poison, and I will not take it. I know my food. I am competent. Okay? Confidence and competence. Number 3, we're expected to be relevant. Okay? Relevant equals youthful equals fashion. So this is where a billion-dollar industry called the anti-aging cream is making a killing. Making sure we feel insecure enough about being irrelevant that we're buying these creams. We're falling for it. I'm falling for it. That wrinkle comes, we start to feel as though something's wrong with me. I'm starting to age. I passed by earlier a neighbor of mine. My children are sitting down there, and she's walking, and she's just got this beautiful haircut. And I says, Teresa, your hair looks so good. And she's like, oh, I know. I had to do a change. I hate aging. Aging is just so sad. I thought, that's how the world wants us to feel. That aging is awful because we're no longer relevant. Okay? Number 4, we're expected to be connected. Okay? So we go to 500 different events and we're dying to be popular. Doesn't matter how, we want to be popular. Why? That makes us feel as though we're connected. Okay? Without even understanding what it means to be connected, we start to feel worthy when we're popular. Okay? What else is an expectation as women? We're expected to be in control. Okay? If we're not in control and we're vulnerable, we're weak. Which means that's why we want to be cool. Cool, calm, and collected. That means we're in control. I'm okay. I'm in control. Doesn't matter what's going on inside. It doesn't matter that my boyfriend has totally disrespected me. I'm okay. Okay? We don't think about this, I'm good. I don't actually need help. Because if I do, I'm considered weak, and that's not acceptable. We're not quite worthy of it. Okay? What else are we expected? We're expected to produce. So, how many women come up to me and say, January, you have no idea how bad I felt. I get emails of my coworkers saying, I can't believe you're just throwing your law degree to be a mother. Okay? Because our production and how much we make has everything to do with our worth. Everything to do with our worth. So there's this beautiful janitor in my children's school. Her name is Rosa. And every day she gives me this tender smile that changes my day. But she's not going to be in the front cover of the magazine. And she's not making $1 million. In the eyes of our culture, okay, more money, worthier. Okay? What else are we expected? We're expected to be extraordinary. Okay? So we graduate from college and we think, I need to make this grand contribution. I need to change the world. Okay? I need to change the world. And these you just think about it. Our worth right now, if you think about it, has everything to do with our accolades, our titles. So I get a A in the classroom. I'm feeling pretty good because my worth has everything to do with my grade. Not how much I've worked or how hard I've worked to get that exam. No, just simply based on my production. Okay. Here's one of my least favorite one is romanced. Okay. So we are expected to be in this romantic Hollywood relationship. Okay. Example, I just watched a Disney movie, and we don't normally do a lot of movies in our home, but I caved in, we watched it, and my husband and I are sitting in this movie, and a few times in the movie, love's first kiss. Okay, my 3-year-old is watching it, my 5-year-old is watching, my 7-year-old is watching it. So, no talk at a very young age about the work that comes into love. It's the images, it's the love's first kiss. It's this romance without understanding what it actually means to be in a relationship. Okay, these are the images, these are the movies, these are the shows that's getting bombarded for our little girls, for us, the shows that we're watching, the images they're getting communicated. Okay, and this is one of my favorite. Got to make it look easy. Don't sweat while you're doing it. You can't sweat because that would not look cool or perfect. Okay, I'm going to leave this blank here, number 10, and I want you to add what you think is being expected of you. Okay, so here's the measuring stick. The more we can put these little tiny things up high, we're pushing it up, okay? That's called perfect. And that's what we want, because perfect equals worthy. And below here is unworthy. Okay, and imperfect. So what we want is we're trying to climb, we're trying to earn our worthiness. We're hustling to be thin, to be confident, and to do it all. And not only all, but to do it all perfectly. We better make it look easy. We better have it all, because that is what's expected of us. That is our measure. We haven't arrived by having it all. Okay? I'm going to break this down further. I am giving you right now just a little bit of what we're going to walk through in this project. I am painting our story in picture to prepare us to really unpack our worth in this project. Let me move on to the contradictions. Okay, this is part of the conflict. Expectation, I'm going to talk about the contradictions. Okay, so contradiction number 1 is be bold, be confident. Okay, be bold and be confident, but don't you dare mess up, because I will judge you. I will criticize you and I will make fun of you. Okay, so 2 weeks ago I get a forward. It was my news feed on Facebook, and it was about this Latina pageant where this lady, was going through her fashion show. In the middle of it, her shoes conks and she falls. And she picks up her shoes and tries to put it back on, and she's walking funny, she's trying to put it together, and she's putting a smile on her face. And you read these comments. Comment after comment. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that. I'm so embarrassed for her. I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. I feel so bad. I'm laughing. Oh, I'm so glad that's not me. On and on and on. Here's this woman. Be bold, but don't you dare fall, because I'll be the first one to laugh at you. Shouldn't we be protecting her? Shouldn't we take that video off YouTube so that nobody gets to make fun of her? Would you want to be that woman? Why are we doing it? Because all day long, we're hustling to be worthy. All day long, if we're not enough, somebody's making us feel bad. If we're not confident enough, somebody's making us feel bad. This is a shot at making us feel a little bit better ourselves. Right? We're doing it. We're shoved into the corner to do it. Expectation number 2, okay? Be beautiful. Be all you can be as long as you're thin. This is really, so unless you're thin, you're not beautiful. And I think I've laid this out. But I remember Okay, I just had my first baby, and my first pregnancy, I didn't know how to take care of my body. I had no idea what food, or learning to understand how food affects my body. I gained 60 pounds. I thought that was pretty normal. Maybe not. So my first doctor's appointment, your normal routine checkup, I sit down and I go to this waiting room, and what do I see facing in front of me? How I lost my baby weight in 10 days. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? I still have 50 pounds to lose. I mean, really, all day long, we're saying, what's wrong with me? I'm not that. It's plastered in our face, okay? Contradiction number 3. You are free to choose. You can choose whatever you want, but just know whatever you choose, and whatever you choose, your worth is everything to do with your production, okay? Your money, okay? So that's where we come in, and we're saying we're made to feel bad for staying home, or we decide to work and we're made to feel bad because somebody else is raising our kids. We cannot get it right. We cannot get it right based on this toxic expectation and contradictions of being a woman today. This is our story, ladies, okay? So contradiction number 4, everyone is equal as long as you're relevant, okay? We're all equal. We talk a lot about equality as long as you're relevant. If you're thin and you're flawless and you're aging and you look like you have a 25-year-old body, we will revere you. We're equal as long as you're relevant. Okay? Number 5, expectation number 5 is have a strong relationship. Be in this dreamy Hollywood relationship, but don't talk about accountability and work. Don't talk about the work that gets into marriage and accountability. Okay? Setting our conflicts, I'm going to move into the plot. This is where I want us to turn. This is really, really important, because this is where I want you to see how we're made to feel like it's our fault. And we're made to feel like something's wrong with us. Okay, I'm going to go through this quickly. So, plot, I want you to think about how we have been prepared. Let me give you an example. I take an SAT exam without studying, okay? So chances are when you're taking the SAT exam, you probably prepare 6 months in advance, or a month, or a year in advance. You're taking classes and you're preparing. I walk in and I didn't realize I was supposed to prepare. I take my test and I fail, okay? I still don't realize that I was supposed to prepare for this exam. The second time I failed, the third time I failed. By the fourth time, I'm going to think something's wrong with me. I'm just not smart. Forget it. I'm giving up. Now, is it that I wasn't smart enough when I took my SAT exam, or I wasn't prepared enough because nobody told me to prepare? I'm going to hound this point again. I take another example. I take a trip to Europe and I decide I'm so excited. So what do? You look at the rail system, you look at the language, you study the culture, you look at the weather, and you pack accordingly, right? So you walk in and you're ready. Europe is ready for you and you're ready. You get right along, right? So let's take the opposite. You're so excited to travel. You go to Europe and you don't prepare. You don't pack. You don't know what the culture, you don't know what the language. You walk in, right in that, Italy or wherever you are, and you say, okay, now what? What do I do? Where do I go? Oh, they don't speak English. Wait, I should have packed my coat. It's cold in here. Guess what? The next 3 days, we're just trying to catch up. We're reacting. So we're supposed to have this great, grand experience of Europe. We're just trying to, we're just reacting. We're just trying to get by. We're not prepared. Okay? So we graduate from college, and all of a sudden, what do I do with my life? Right? This is what's expected of us. So I just want to hound this point a little bit, because I think it's really important for us to understand our story and how we have been prepared and walked into a story. So let me take thin, for example. Okay, how have we been prepared to study our food and our body? My daughter walks in and says, Mom, my nose is sniffling. What did I eat last night? This is my 3-year-old. What did I eat? I ate junk. I know what I ate. I can tell. Or my 7-year-old walks in, and I've taught them since to do this. Mom, my eyes are puffy. What did I eat last night? I just need to know it. Okay. How are we taught to study our body at a very young age and to study the food, where it comes from, how it's made at a very young age, so that we don't walk into a dilemma of feeling as though we need to be thin and we don't know how to be healthy? Okay, so how have you been prepared to study your body, study your food, and competence in taking care of our body or the kitchen? Number 2, I want to take confidence. Okay, so my little 2-year-old is sweeping the floor. Okay, and like a good old 2-year-old, he's sweeping it and it's nothing on the dustpan. It's lots of rice on the floor. So I take the broom and I re-sweep it in front of him. What does that tell my 2-year-old? Honey, your work is not good enough. This is how you do it perfectly. We do this all day long without realizing it. Okay, so my daughter walks in and, we go to church and her shoes are backwards. Okay, like most of you have me toddlers. All day long. Oh, your shoes are backwards. Let me help you fix it. Oh, you put them on wrong. You put them on wrong. You put them on wrong. And I cringe because I know her story. She has worked for 20 minutes to put on her own shoes, did it herself, took it out, and tried to Velcro it step by step. It pains me. We don't know our story, right? We're not doing it quite perfectly. And if we're not doing it perfectly, it's not good enough. We're going to unpack this and where the areas that we don't realize. We're getting duped into this culture that expects us to be perfect, and it falls right into from the very beginning when we're little girls. Okay? So, number 3, connection. Okay? How are we taught to connect? How are we taught to be present? How are we taught to engage in depth and to have nurturing relationships? Because we have a crisis connection in our culture. Okay, there's a lot of lonely hearts where we feel alone, we're isolated. But we're not talking about being present. I mean, you don't have to go far. When you go to a restaurant, everybody's doing this. I mean, this is our culture. Yet, we are dying to connect because it is the ache of every human heart to feel as though they belong and they want to connect. Okay? Let's move on to relationships. Okay? How are we prepared to communicate our boundaries, to collaborate as opposed to compete? Or how are we taught to know what we want or we don't want? And how are we taught to be whole before entering into a relationship? There's not a lot of conversations about needing to be whole prior to us entering a relationship and what that looks like. But yet, we think it's true love's first kiss, right? So, what's the theme? We're not good enough based on this. Something's wrong with me. We need to be fixed, and it's our fault. This is our story. I'm going to just summarize it. We live in a toxic culture who expects us to be perfect, who has failed to prepare us, and we're getting blamed for it. We are getting blamed for what? Not being good enough. We can never be good enough based on our toxic culture and based on our perfection scale. Who in the world is perfect? I mean, we live in an airbrushed world, but that's what we were getting advertised. I really need us to understand our story because we are made to feel bad and hustle and fight for our worthiness. We just want so badly to be loved and we feel like we need to earn it. How many women come up to me and say, if I do this, maybe he'll love me more, all day long? It hurts me. I know what that's like. I have been there. In the next video, I'm going to share with you my story and the wound that pained me. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me and walk with me. I'm truly grateful.